elderberry. Elderberry, did I say elderberry?
You did.
Yes, I can't wait. That was those photographs were some of our elderberry and strawberries that we have on our
Very
property.
nice. Very
So,
nice.
yeah.
Good to
So
see.
today we are in my backyard with Heidi Bukowski.
Hello.
Yay! We're going to talk about biodynamics.
Exciting.
Yes, and I have to say that I learned about biodynamics probably 5 or 6 years ago. I went to a workshop because I said to myself, prove it to me. Prove it to me that biodynamics is better. And I walked away like, wow, I have been doing things like wrong.
Well,
And not bad, not like poisoning, but there are better ways of doing things.
Right.
So what I'd like to know a little bit about is who you are, Heidi, and why I should be listening to you, because what is your background?
well, Jody, I started with an agricultural degree when I was a college student, and I went into Michigan State thinking I wanted to go to veterinary medicine, and I ended up learning more about animal science. I did a lot of studies of pork and beef production, so I was learning conventional ag at that time, not really realizing I was absorbing a lot and learning a lot, but not questioning it. Went through married life, got done with that, went back to school in my 40s, sought out a new way of agriculture, and that was actually called sustainable agriculture. That was in North Carolina. Received a 2-year degree there, and a lot of that teaching was about organics. However, at that time, there was a farmer that we met and taught a class about biodynamics. And that just really piqued my interest. And I continued along listening and learning a little bit. And only in the last year have I really dove in and wanted to know more. And I think the thing to know about biodynamics is it seems like the more you learn, the less you know.
Doesn't that happen in everything in life pretty much?
It does, but there's a lot to learn.
Yeah, there is. And you know, people don't realize that, like, they think that organic is the best.
Sure.
But you don't know what organic practices people were using. Yes, they're not using pesticides, but they're using pesticides in a different way.
They're using chemicals that are termed
Right.
organic.
Exactly.
So you can have a large farm that can be organic, and it will just be using the same sort of ideals of what do I use as a fertilizer. I use chemicals that are organic, or I use other types of additives that are organic. That doesn't necessarily mean that's what's best for the plant or the soil.
Right. And the plants actually tell you
Sure.
what they need.
Sure.
And you just need to know
Right.
to look for
Observing
different
the
things.
plants and knowing what they are lacking is usually what biodynamics is doing from the very beginning.
Right. So Rudolf Steiner was one of the people that really pushed biodynamics.
Right.
And I feel like he really was ahead of his time, because there are so many theories that he's come out with, if it's beekeeping or gardening or whatever the topics are, that he really looked deeply into how you can do things better in a more natural way without chemicals and ways that people can feel good about things. You know, it's like it's a whole organism. It's not just one little thing.
That's talked a lot about how the earth is an organism. Rudolf Steiner believed in studying the whole universe and how we all are interactive with each other, the planetary systems as well as the soil and within the soil. So he looked at all aspects, and he brought that into, I believe it was 24 lectures. And so people have been studying these lectures over time and trying to take out what they know from them and using them in understanding biodynamics.
Yeah. So how does it make a difference? What do you
I believe the way I interpret biodynamics is you may or may not see a difference right away, but over time what you're doing is you're making where you're growing your garden or your land or your orchard or whatever it is that you plan to grow, a more healthy and vibrant community of microorganisms. You're not doing harm. You're going beyond organic because you're trying to understand what's happening.
Yeah.
And you're trying to benefit every aspect of it.
So how did you learn about this? Did you go to meetings or conferences, or what did you do?
I actually was invited to attend this past fall. There was a biodynamic conference that was held in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and it was a wonderful eye-opening experience. It was actually very spiritual, and that was a part of it that I had not been exposed to before. So it was the feeling of being in this, wanting to heal the earth, wanting to do what's right for growing our food. And it was this great experience, and I really enjoyed it. And it's held every 2 years. So biodynamic conferences are a lot of work. It's an international conference, and they have people from all over that came and spoke.
Yeah. So what are some of the topics that they spoke about, or ingredients, or what makes something biodynamic? What would be different than
the
how
way
we
that
do
they
other practices?
prepare? There's a preparation that is often started at the beginning of the growing season that's used to go on the bare soil prep. There's a compost prep that's done that they prepare for, and then during the season there's different ways of treating. Like you said, the plants will tell you what's wrong. If you have tomatoes that have difficulties, there are horsetail teas that you use. There's different ways of preparing things.
Right. And I've seen people take a mixture, it looks like a tincture almost.
Exactly.
And they'll spray it through the garden.
Spritz it, right.
Yep. And with like a pine bough or something like
Exactly.
that. Yep.
And so a lot of what we think of it as, this is a homeopathic method of healing. You don't necessarily need large quantities of these biodynamic preps, but what you're doing is you're mixing them with water, and you're adding the energy of the earth and the water to this preparation, and then that helps heal and benefit.
Yeah. One of the things that I was really surprised at, and I do this now in my garden, even though I probably don't cover all the biodynamic practices, but I'm getting there.
Yes.
But going to the ocean, and getting seawater.
Right.
They talked about how very little you would need to put on your garden. It's not like you need gallons and gallons. You need like 1 gallon, and all you're going to use is a cup or a quarter of a cup to put in with other water, because there's so many great microorganisms in there.
Right.
And they talked about rock dust,
Right.
which I think of as dust or sand.
But it benefits. It's the mineralization. It's making what's available in the soil become plant available. So it's a chemistry that's ongoing that people don't realize when they're growing their plants, that there's actually certain elements are available and some are not. And what you're doing is you're trying to make as much available to the plant to grow as healthy as it can.
Right, right. Last year we had a drought, and I think, is it salt or sugar? There's something that you put on your garden in the water when things have closed down. I can't remember what it is now, but I'd have to look at it. No, it was just something that popped into my head. But there are things that you can do to help your plants do much better.
Well, the whole idea behind biodynamics is you're not just growing this one plant, you're growing the soil, you're growing the health that will allow the plant to grow well and then combat diseases or combat drought. So as long as you have that in the system, then you'll have a better way for them to deal with problems like that.
And they can do it on their own,
exactly.
pretty much. Yeah. So it's a very sustainable way of living.
Should be.
Yeah.
It should be.
So this is what I have as a description for biodynamics. Biodynamics is a holistic, ecological, and ethical approach to farming, gardening, food, and nutrition. It's not just a holistic agricultural system, but also a potent movement for new thinking and practices in all aspects of life. So, you know, we think of it as biodynamic gardening, but biodynamics is in all forms in our lives. So it's just a different way of thinking,
looking and thinking.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the idea behind it is just that it's been here all along. It's just now we're rediscovering it.
Right. You just have to open your eyes.
You just have to be more conscious and aware and think through what nature has been trying to teach us all along.
Right.
We're just learning that.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, just recently I was thinking, you know, we all think that we know the path that we're supposed to be on, or we know we're in control and we're going to grow those tomatoes. I mean, this is the way we're going to do it. But we sometimes don't stop to listen or to think that there's other powers out there besides us. I know that sounds a little bit sort of out there, but it really is true. And I'm not one, I don't consider myself a person that just jumps on the bandwagon. You have to teach me and you have to prove to me that it's going to work before I
Well, I see you have this biodynamic calendar
and
here,
that's where we're
that's
going.
A good start for learning how to use it.
Exactly. So what we have here is the Stella Natura catalog. It's a calendar, And what you can do is it gives you all kinds of different information on when to plant things, different histories. It gives you, again, calendars for different months. So can you give me a little bit of an idea? And you can even go back to the previous year, because this one here is for this year. This is 2017 when we're doing this show. But you have something that you used last year.
I have one that I used this past year, and it was more or less how I planted every seed that went into the soil. What the person who's written this, her name is Sherry Wildfleur, has indicated is that there are times during a month. It's not just a moon cycle,
right,
but it's a planetary cycle. It's energies within, ascending, descending. I haven't even learned all the details myself. It's hard to take it all in. But the way I understood it is the blackout times you do not plant. The times when it's a root, a leaf, or a flower you pay attention to. If you need to be planting things that are going to be under the ground, it's different than at the time when you're actually harvesting the plant product itself that's a vegetable or a fruit. So there are different times that you plant. There's also different times for harvesting. So this allows you to understand if you aren't able to know quite when an onion is ready, then this will help you learn that too.
So what is the difference if you don't use the calendar?
To me, I feel as though you're just basing on when your time schedule fits it, and this is teaching you to go with what the earth is providing you. It's giving you more opportunities to follow the rhythm, the forces, the ideas that Biodynamic probably knows best, and we're just trying to learn from it.
Right, right. There's so much.
There's a lot.
You also have a couple of other catalogs with you.
Oh, I have the Biodynamic. It's actually from the organization itself. The Biodynamic Association has this its own, I guess it would be a magazine. There's two different ones I picked up when I went to the conference. It talks a lot about just different farmers who are biodynamic, and you can go through a certification, which is just like the organic certification. This is called a Demeter certifier. It means a lot to have that certification done. It means you're practicing as a biodynamic farmer. It also allows you to sell if you're selling your products that way. It makes a difference. I think a lot of people in this area don't realize that our very first CSA was in Wilton, New Hampshire. And so the whole nation could look to them. They were biodynamics. They still are. They still practice those methods, and they're still in existence, doing well.
And I believe a lot of the CSAs were started with using the biodynamic practices.
Right, this whole idea that we can provide for our community the food that we need to eat.
Exactly, and it's good food.
It is.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. What are you planning to plant this year?
Well, I have my own home property, and then I have my job. And my home currently, we've started onions already. We have started tomatoes and peppers.
And did you use the calendar to decide?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. I followed the idea that usually right after a full moon is a good time to start your seeds. So that was in March. We'll be growing a lot of food, and I love being able to see how well it does.
Yeah. What are your favorites?
Last year we planted tomatoes and peppers and had a variety of colors of peppers. The tomatoes we made into all types of things. But I believe that at my work I just really want to provide the most healthy food that we can have, and I think that was true.
Right. So when we're talking about this, it's March. What can you be doing to your garden or your area in preparation for this year?
First, we have to have the snow melt.
Okay.
And then after that, the compost is the biggest important.
And what kind of compost would you use?
The way that the preparations are done usually through Biodynamics is you're adding manure. So there's usually a source of some animal manure, and then they have their biodynamic prep for the compost, and then you're using any type of vegetable scraps. So if you're a home gardener, you use your household kitchen scraps, and you add that in quantities along with your carbon and your leaves and your whatever you have that's dry at this time of year. And then you mix it all in, and then you let it sit for about 6 months. So
when you're
compost
saying
pile
this,
from last spring
right.
is the best compost pile to add for this coming
Exactly.
spring.
So you want it broken down. You do not want to be putting these scraps in and then putting those scraps on your garden, because then you're really just asking for trouble.
Right. No, it's building the compost pile for next year's spring gardening.
Right. And do you have more than one compost pile? Do you keep...
We
couple of them
do.
going?
We do. A lot of times what you're doing is you're using the one that you made from last year, you're making the one for this next year.
Yep. Okay. Let's look at your other catalog. What do you have
This
there?
one here?
Yeah.
This was actually from the conference. So what it provided me with is at the back there's a lot of resources and information. It's about where you can get connections made. I think that's the best part about going to conferences is making connections and learning about people and what they're doing. I think that my opportunity to go was just made me feel like I'm very committed to doing the biodynamic way of planting and growing things.
Excellent. Now, do they have a website?
They do. It's a biodynamic. I don't have it right here, but I know that there's a biodynamic association.
Right.
So it's www.biodynamics.com.
Okay.
And
great.
joining them and becoming a member is the best way to find out about.
Excellent.
How to
Well, I think
learn.
that's actually the web information that I got is
Great.
biodynamics.com. Yeah.
Great.
So they have their conferences in the even years then.
Correct.
So yeah.
Yep.
So that's
the next
something to
one's
think
in
about.
Portland, Oregon.
Ah.
It's the Northwest.
Are they always out in that area?
I don't
or-
know. There
Yeah.
seem to be a lot of people out there that seem to like using it.
Yeah.
But one of the things I learned at the conference I didn't get a chance to mention is just the aspect of water use, not just that we were in a drought here, but think about farmers that were in New Mexico and how very little water they have, and they are still growing biodynamically, as well as people in the Oregon rainforest area. So getting the available water that you have and using it appropriately can be looked at in a biodynamic way as well.
Right. And when you say appropriately, how would you use the water?
Just retaining it and holding it and having it being available when you need it. It may, like when there's too much water, you don't want to have your garden flood.
Right. And then you have the drip systems too.
Exactly.
And
So
that
drip
makes a
tape
huge
works
difference.
really well for us.
Right.
That's what we use a lot. But just, conservatively using your water
Right.
appropriately.
And the other thing that I find too is when you do have a well composted garden, the soil will hold the water a lot longer too.
Exactly.
Again, last year we had a drought. I think I watered my garden twice.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's very
so
good.
it had really good organic
Maintained
matter in it. Right.
And then the other aspect that we use a lot is just mulching. So
Exactly.
making sure that you have your plants be sort of bedded in there and comfortable.
And is there something better for mulching over other
A
things?
lot of times people will use old hay because as it decomposes, it's adding nutrition to the soil. But you can use lots of different substances.
Yeah. Yeah. What are some of the signs of something that might be going wrong? Have you ever seen any of those? Like sometimes I noticed the June bugs are worse some years.
Right.
Or, are there any signs that we can look out for bugs or disease or anything like
I think
that?
just knowing that there will always be that there. So there will always be an insect pressure. There will always be the weeds to deal with. There will always be, different types of soils affect your plant differently. But I guess what I feel like is if you have the plant growing healthy by starting it like following the calendar at the right time, then that gives it the best start for it to grow. And then when the whatever bugs are coming through or whatever drought there is, then that actually will help the plant maintain.
Yeah, there's so much. But again, we just have to kind of connect.
Right.
So let's look at a few photographs that we have,
Okay.
and then we'll talk a little bit about the New Hampshire Permaculture Day.
Oh, great.
And some of that information. But we'll bring up a couple of photos. Some of them are garden pictures. Some of them are just flowers, but I think they're pretty.
Oh, good.
They're things that I've taken along the way.
Okay.
So we'll look at those, and let's see. What do we see here? I think these are hydrangea. These are in Westmoreland, and this was during the drought, but they were beautiful. And so they must have a lot of,
They're
organic
probably
matter.
a native species.
Right, right. Yep.
Very nice.
And that was just a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
There was still greenery out there, but we had snow.
Yes, we do
so
have snow here.
soon we'll have no snow. Everything will be green.
I hope so.
Yep. Bloodroot will be out. That's the first things that I usually remember seeing. That looks like strawberries.
It does.
Let's see. What else do we have?
Is
That looks
your
like
garden?
yarrow. Yep. Yeah. Good things to have on the edges of your gardens,
Right.
to attract pollinators
To
and
attract the
things like that.
pollinators in.
Yep. A few little daisies. More daisies. There's a little pollinator in there. You
I can
hardly
see that.
her. Yep. This is actually a picture of my garden. And I don't know what did they say about chickens? Are chickens good or bad or?
Any animal that adds fertilizer to your garden is a good thing.
I think my chickens do a really great job.
Looks like it.
So what we did last year is we moved our rhubarb. So what you see on the right-hand side is the rhubarb, and the chickens just go out and they scratch.
Sure.
So they're actually tilling the soil
They are.
because all of the good stuff is up on top. All of those little micro organisms are up on top. So we don't usually try to rototill our garden, and so the chickens do a great job.
Yep.
And then I think in the upper part, those were just some plants that we had in the garden. This is actually how I water my bees. This is a bird bath, but we used moss, and so the bees are actually getting natural water. It looks kind of grungy there, but it's what they like actually.
Right.
We clean this out so that there's no mosquitoes, but this is a mossy area, so the bees are actually taking water in from the moss. So they're getting all the good nutrients from the moss and the dirt.
Very nice.
Yeah. Purple salvia. Looks like, I think I was actually taking a picture of the bee there. But that does look like purple salvia. And sadly, sedum in the winter. But sedum is a great, plant for the fall.
It is.
Oh, what is that? It smells like licorice. I can't think of what it's called. Bees love it.
It's very nice looking.
Yes. Yep. This is a farm. It's called Musterfield Farm. This is up in Sutton, New Hampshire.
Oh, nice.
And they try to grow as much as they can organically as well. I don't know if it's a biodynamic farm, but can you imagine? I mean, everything looks so green and lush and beautiful. But this is what people's gardens can look like. And these were just some of the flowers that they have on the edges of their gardens. And I think that's one of the things that people need to think about when they plant their gardens.
Right.
Is it's not just the vegetables. It's
for sure.
the flowers that you can plant around to attract the native pollinators and any other kinds of pollinators that might be in the area. That is...
Blooming tree.
Yes, I think it's a dogwood.
Looks like dogwood.
Yeah. I can't remember what kind of flower this is. I have these, and the next slide also has a darker one. And these are in my gardens.
Oh, those are so pretty.
Yeah, they come up every year. They're a perennial. And I don't often see pollinators on them, but they do seem to like the area that they're in. They're in a little bit of a wet area. Violets. Yes.
Very pretty.
Yeah. And I think violets and clover might give you signs of the different statuses of your soil as well. I know that with clover, a lot of times the clover will grow where you need the nitrogen.
Right.
And
well,
so
that's a legume. So
exactly. Yeah.
They will add the nitrogen back to the soil.
Right. Those are in my backyard. Are those raspberries?
I'm not sure.
No, those are cherries.
I was going to
Those
guess
are cherries.
cherry.
Yeah, I have quite a few different
blooming fruit trees.
Right.
Yes. Nice.
So those are cherry blossoms.
Very pretty.
Yeah. Do you know what that one is? It's my favorite tree. It's a red bud.
Oh,
Yeah.
those are beautiful.
Yeah. So the buds all line up along the stems. And back to strawberries. And that, I don't know what that one is. But it has a whole bunch of flowers that all come out at one time. And then the elderberry. And the elderberry is really great because it's very good for you if you have a cold.
Right.
They make different
Elderberry
syrups.
syrup.
Cheshire Gardens makes a delicious elderberry syrup that I kind of hope that I get sick sometimes just so I can drink it. It's so delicious.
Sure.
And, sorry about that. You guys, again, turn it. We've got carrots. These are some carrots that we picked over at Stonewall Farm. We were doing some, what do you call it? Gleaning? Yes.
Boy.
And you know a little bit about gleaning,
I do know
too.
a lot about gleaning.
Yeah. So we were picking carrots for the community kitchen, I think, last year.
Nice.
So it was just an interesting type of carrot. So
Nice.
yeah, interesting stuff. I just thought we should look at a few plants. Right now there's not a lot growing, but there will be soon. So can you tell me, let me say, I did want to mention New Hampshire Permaculture Day.
Yes.
Okay.
Don't forget.
So New Hampshire Permaculture Day, they have a website which is www.newhampshirepermacultureday.org. They also have a Facebook page, and you can, pick up information there. Have you ever been to the?
I have. Last summer I went to the New Hampshire Permaculture Day. It was a great place. It's located at Orchard Hill, which is in Alstead.
Yeah.
And they had many workshops from people across the state. Actually, they came. Again, learning about planting from different people gives you lots of ideas. They also did a lot of things, indoor, outdoor. It would suit everyone's needs.
So people should just check this out. Really.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a great place.
Hopes and dreams. What are your hopes and dreams for this season?
Just to be able to be at peace and working outside. I feel it's the best place to be when you are benefiting nature and you're working with it, not against it.
Exactly. And it's so much easier when you work with something instead of against it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's
So
a
we
good
have to
place
look
for
at that.
me.
Yeah. Thank you, Heidi, for joining us today.
Thanks,
This has
Jody.
been really
It was
wonderful.
Great. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So today we've been in my backyard. I always say love life, live well, and be grateful. But there are so many things that we do have that we need to, keep our eyes open for, and it can be a lot easier than we make it. You just have to open your eyes and, use the things that you have out in the environment so that you can make things better naturally instead of having to use pesticides and insecticides and herbicides. And people just have no idea
that nature provides for us.
Exactly. Yeah. And the bad things that they might be using that they have no idea because they don't tell you that.
Yeah. You don't need to be using those.
No. So thank you very much.
Welcome.
Yeah. And I'll look forward to seeing you guys again soon. I'm going to be doing a show or two, or I'm only going to be doing shows for a short while longer, and then we'll be taking a break, and then we'll be coming back again after a couple months. But I hope that you'll watch the In My Backyard shows. We'll bring a few of the older shows back that I hope will help you as well. And I hope that you just pay attention and do your research because it's very important to keep an eye out there. So we'll see you again in my backyard.